Hi everyone, and welcome back to English Grammar for Speaking and Writing. Today we're going to tackle one of the most challenging, but also one of the most important grammar principles in English, the Principle of Noun Determiner Agreement. Now, when students struggle with English grammar, their difficulties usually come from two areas: using verbs correctly and using nouns correctly. With verbs, the key question is when. You always have to check the tense. English has 12 tense expressions, and choosing the correct one depends not only on actual time, but also on logical time. If you'd like a full overview of that, make sure to check Dr. Burns' lecture video on English tense logic. But today, our focus is on the other major challenge, nouns. With nouns, the question is, what kind of thing? Is it singular or plural? Countable or uncountable? Specific or general? That's where determiners come in. Determiners are small words like the, this, that, some, or my, but they carry enormous grammatical weight. Choosing the wrong determiner can completely change the meaning of your sentence. The Principle of Noun Determiner Agreement. This principle means that every time you use a noun in English, the determiner you choose must agree with that noun in key grammatical features, whether it's countable or uncountable, and whether it's specific or general. That's where non-native speakers often struggle because many languages don't mark these distinctions. For example, in Korean, the same noun form can express countable, uncountable, specific, or unspecific meanings, so it's perfectly natural to find English determiners confusing at first. To help you master this, we'll break down the Principle of Noun Determiner Agreement into 7 essential rules as follows. Use a or an with singular countable nouns. Use zero article with plural and uncountable nouns. Know the 3 noun types by countability. Zero article with singular countable nouns in idiomatic expressions. Use the when the listener knows which one. Use the when the noun is unique in context. Use indefinite quantifiers to show how many or how much. By the end of this session, you'll understand not just what sounds correct in English, but why it's correct. And that's the real key to writing and speaking naturally. And remember, if you're aiming for a 26 or higher on the TOEFL, these aren't advanced rules, they're fundamentals. So mastering them isn't optional. It's essential. All right, let's begin with Rule 1. Using a or an with singular countable nouns when introducing something new. All right, let's begin with one of the most fundamental principles of English grammar. You can't use a singular countable noun by itself. In English, every singular countable noun needs a determiner, a little word that tells your listener what kind of thing you're talking about. Think about this. If you say, I bought book yesterday, your listener will be confused. Did you buy one book, a few books, or maybe a specific book you already mentioned? The determiner fills in that missing signal. It tells us whether the noun is general, specific, new, or already known. Now, when you're talking about something new, something your listener doesn't already know, you use a or an. We call these indefinite articles because they refer to something not yet definite or specific. Here's the basic rule. Use a before words that begin with a consonant sound, and an before words that begin with a vowel sound. For example, I saw a dog in the park. She ate an apple for breakfast. He waited for an hour before the bus came. She goes to a university in London. And here's something important. It's the sound, not the spelling, that matters. The word university begins with a Y sound, university. So we use a, not an. Now let's talk about when not to use a or an. These articles can only be used with singular countable nouns. That means you never use them with plurals or uncountable nouns. So it's incorrect to say, I bought a books. That's plural. Or I bought a milk. Milk is uncountable. Instead, you'd say, I bought some books, or I bought some milk. Finally, if another determiner is already present, like my, this, that, or her, you don't add a or an on top of that. For instance, we say, I bought a book, or I bought my book, but never, I bought a my book. This first rule might seem simple, but it's one of the clearest signs of fluent English, knowing exactly when to use a or an, and when to leave them out. Now that we've seen how a, or an, introduces one new, countable thing, let's shift our focus to something different, talking in general. Sometimes you're not talking about a single item, but about an entire group or category. In English, when we make general statements about plural nouns or uncountable nouns, we don't use any article at all. This is called the zero particle. That means you simply use the noun by itself. No a, no an, and no the. Let's break this down. First, general meaning with plural nouns. When you talk about all members of a group, for example, dogs, teachers, books, or cars in general, you leave out the article. Compare these sentences. Dogs are friendly animals. This is correct. It's a general truth about dogs as a whole group. Now, if you say, the dogs are friendly animals, it suddenly sounds like you're talking about specific dogs you already know. That's not what we mean if we want to make a general statement. Here are more examples. Computers make life easier. Teachers work very hard. Books can change lives. Each sentence describes a category, not a particular example. Next, general meaning with uncountable nouns. Words like milk, water, information, music, love, happiness, and advice are uncountable. When you speak about them in general, you don't use an article. For instance, milk is good for your health. Information helps us make decisions. Music reduces stress. If you add the in these cases, the meaning changes. The milk is good for your health refers to a specific milk, maybe the one in your glass. The music reduces stress refers to a particular piece of music, not music in general. So here's the key. Zero article signals a general truth, while the points to a specific instance. What about adjectives before nouns? The same rule applies. Even when you add adjectives before plural or uncountable nouns, you still leave out the article if you're talking about general ideas. For example, fresh fruits are important for health. Classical music can calm the mind. Cold weather affects people's mood. These sentences describe types or categories in general, not one particular fruit, music piece, or kind of weather. Finally, a common mistake to watch out for. Many learners, especially when translating from languages without articles, tend to add the in front of plural nouns by habit. The people are social beings. This is incorrect if you're speaking in general. The correct sentence is, people are social beings. Now that we've gone through rules 1 and 2, let's take a moment to step back and see the bigger picture. Both of these rules really hinge on one critical question. Is your noun singular and countable, or is it plural and uncountable? Think of it like a conditional. If the noun is singular and countable, you follow one set of rules. If it's plural or uncountable, you follow another. That means before you can apply rules 1 and 2 correctly, you need to know exactly what type of noun you're working with. Many students assume that nouns are fixed. Some are always countable, some are always uncountable. But in English, it's not that simple. Nouns actually fall into three main groups when it comes to countability. Let's go through them carefully. Group 1. Definitely countable nouns. These are straightforward. They can be counted, and when singular, they always require a determiner. Examples include boys, girls, students, books, apples, chairs, cars, dogs, pans. I saw a student in the library. She bought an apple. It's simple, but essential to get right. Group 2. Uncountable nouns. Some nouns are almost always uncountable. These cannot be counted individually. Think water, air, or milk. However, some nouns might look like they are countable, but in English, they are uncountable. Take rice or corn, for example. You cannot say a rice or a corn. Instead, you need a counting unit, 3 grains of rice or an ear of corn. Other common uncountable nouns that students often get wrong include advice, furniture, information, luggage, equipment, research, mail, and vocabulary. Even though these nouns may refer to individual pieces, in English grammar, they are always uncountable. So here's the rule for uncountable nouns. Never use a or an. Never use numbers directly without a unit. Use zero article or quantifiers like some, much, or counting phrases like a piece of or a grain of. For example, I bought some milk. She gave me a piece of good advice. We need more furniture for the office. Notice how this differs from other languages. In some languages, these nouns might feel countable, but in English, they are strictly uncountable. Group 3. Nouns that can be both countable and uncountable. This is the tricky group for many learners. Some nouns change their grammatical behavior depending on meaning. The form you choose signals whether you're talking about a specific, countable item or a general substance or activity. Examples include chicken. Countable, I bought a chicken at the market. That means one whole bird. Uncountable, you might say, I ate chicken for lunch, and that means the meat, not individual animals. Paper. Countable would be, I wrote a paper for class. That means a document. Or if it's uncountable, you might say, I need paper to print the report. That means the material. Iron. Countable, you might say, I need an iron to press my shirt. That means a device. Or uncountable, you could say the bridge is made of iron. That means the metal. Even abstract nouns follow this pattern. Work. Countable, you might say, the artist created 3 works of art. That means individual pieces. Or if it's uncountable, you might say, I have a lot of work to do. That means a general activity. Investment. Countable, you might say, buying this property was an investment. That means a specific act. Or if it's uncountable, you can say, investment in education is essential. That means the general concept. Finally, some uncountable nouns can appear in plural form when referring to types or kinds, even though they're uncountable in general. For example, different wines were tasted at the festival. That means types of wine. Eat meats and fruits. That means varieties of meat and fruit. So here's the key takeaway. Meaning determines whether a noun can be treated as countable. Always pay attention to the determiners, plural forms, and quantifiers, because these small words carry big signals about whether your noun is countable or uncountable. From Rule 1, you already know that with a singular countable noun, you usually need a determiner. But sometimes you'll see sentences without any article that are actually correct. Take this sentence, for example. I go to school by bus. Here, both school and bus are countable nouns, yet we don't use a or the. Why is that? This is a special exception in English called the zero article with singular countable nouns. Normally, singular countable nouns take a or an, but English has important idiomatic exceptions. In certain expressions, a singular countable noun does not take an article, even though it is grammatically countable. The reason is that in these cases, the noun doesn't refer to a specific object. Let's break it down. In I go to school, the sentence is not talking about a particular school building. It's about the activity of attending school as a student. Similarly, by bus refers to a method of travel, not a physical bus. In these idiomatic situations, no article is used. Now, if you were actually talking about the physical object, you would need a different preposition and article. You would say, I am on the bus, or I am in a car. See the difference? The meaning changes depending on whether you're speaking about the activity or the object itself. Other classic examples include sentences like, I go to bed early. Here, bed is singular and countable in form, but here we're talking about the activity of sleeping, not a physical bed. Similarly, she goes to church on Sundays uses zero article because it refers to the activity, whereas she visited a church in Rome uses a because it refers to a specific building. Some expressions are flexible, and the meaning shifts depending on whether you include the article. Consider, I had lunch. Lunch is singular and countable in form, but here we're talking about eating as an activity, so no article is used. If we say, I had a lunch with my boss, now a lunch refers to a specific meal, a single event, not the general activity. These idiomatic uses are extremely common in English, and mastering them will make your speech and writing sound natural, fluent, and precise. If you want to understand these patterns systematically, I highly recommend checking out Dr. Burns' lecture on zero article with singular countable nouns. In that video, Dr. Burns categorizes all the cases where the zero article occurs, provides clear examples, and explains the meaning in each context. By following her step-by-step systematic approach, you'll learn exactly when to leave out the article and why, instead of guessing or trying to memorize exceptions.
Rule 5. Use the when the listener knows which one you mean. Imagine you're thirsty and find a bottle of water in front of you. You're not sure if it's safe to drink. Someone nearby might say one of two things. Water is safe to drink, or the water is safe to drink. Which information is actually helpful? The first sentence only gives a general fact about water as a substance. It doesn't tell you anything about the liquid in front of you. The second sentence, the water is safe to drink, is immediately useful because it refers to that specific water right there. You know exactly what's safe. This is the essence of the. It tells your listener that you are talking about something already introduced or specific, rather than something general. Using the doesn't mean you have to repeat the exact same noun. You can use a different word to refer back. For example, if you first say, I saw a car on the street, you can continue, the vehicle was red and shiny. Here, vehicle refers back to the car without repeating the word. The also works for plural and uncountable nouns. Students were outside. The group looked worried. Plural, specific group. She gave me information. The details were helpful. Uncountable, specific information. I tried a cheese at the market. The variety was amazing. Using a related word naturally to refer back. Whenever you use the, you signal to your listener that the noun is definite, known, or mentioned earlier. This makes your speech and writing precise, fluent, and natural. By varying the words you use to refer back, you avoid repetition while keeping the connection clear.
Rule 6. Use the if the noun is unique in the context. So far, we've learned that we use the when something has already been mentioned and the listener knows exactly what we're talking about. But here's something interesting. Even if a noun has never been mentioned before, we often still use the. Why? Because sometimes the noun is unique in the context, obvious to the listener, or part of a shared common concept. Think about it. When you say the sun, the moon, or the earth, you don't need to explain which ones you mean. From our everyday human context, there's only one of each. They are unique to our world. However, uniqueness depends on context. For example, if you were talking about astronomy, the moon might refer to Earth's moon, but other planets like Jupiter have many moons. In that case, a moon would make more sense because it's one of several. So, the depends on what's considered unique or identifiable within that situation. In daily conversation, the appears constantly because of this contextual uniqueness. When you say, pass me the salt, you're not talking about salt in general. You're referring to the specific salt on the table that both you and the listener can see. Similarly, I looked out the window doesn't mean just any window. It clearly means the one in the room you're in. We also use the when a noun is modified by a phrase that makes it specific. The book I bought last week. This tells us exactly which book. The flowers in the garden. Here, the phrase in the garden identifies the flowers. In all these cases, the marks something definite, identifiable, or contextually unique, even if it hasn't been mentioned before. It's a subtle but powerful signal to your listener. You know which one I mean. This rule can be tricky because it's not about memory. It's about shared understanding. English speakers naturally assume certain things are obvious from context, while learners might expect to use the only for things already named. But as you can see, contextual uniqueness is just as important. So, the next time you say the sky, the kitchen, the phone, or the teacher, remember, you're not necessarily repeating something old. You're simply pointing to something that's clear and unique in that situation.
Now that we've covered articles, let's turn to indefinite quantifiers, words that describe how many or how much of something there is. These words often replace a or an when we talk about quantity instead of introducing a single new thing. But here's the main problem. Students often make mistakes by not matching the quantifier to the type of noun correctly. For example, saying each student's or less items. To avoid these errors, you simply need to memorize 4 categories of indefinite quantifiers and learn which noun type each one matches. Once you know that, it becomes very easy to use them correctly. 1. Singular countable nouns, every and each. When we talk about singular countable nouns, we cannot use many or some. Instead, we use every or each, which focus on individual members of a group. For example, every student has a notebook. Each child received a certificate. Every car in the parking lot was inspected. Each participant must submit their form by Friday. Both each and every describe singular nouns, but with a nuance. Each emphasizes individuals one by one, while every sees them collectively as part of the whole group. 2. Plural countable nouns. All, both, several, few, a few, many, a large number of. When you're referring to more than one countable thing, the quantifier must reflect plurality. For example, both teachers are friendly. Several students ask questions after the lecture. Many students prefer online learning. A few children stayed after school to help. All the books on the shelf are new. Few people attended the lecture due to the weather. Notice the difference between few and a few. Few has a negative meaning, almost none. A few is positive. It means some, but not many. This small difference completely changes the tone of your sentence. 3. Uncountable nouns. How much type quantifiers. Now, for uncountable nouns like water, time, advice, information, sugar, or money, we can't count them individually. So instead of using many or a few, we use quantifiers that describe amount rather than number. For example, we have little time to finish the project. There is much interest in the new program. She gave a great deal of advice on preparing for the exam. Add a little sugar to the recipe. A large amount of water is wasted daily. Remember, amount goes with uncountable nouns. Number goes with countable ones. So it's incorrect to say a large amount of books or much students. Instead, you'd say a large number of books or many students. 4. Quantifiers that work for both plural countable nouns and uncountable nouns. Finally, some quantifiers are flexible. They can modify both plural countable nouns and uncountable nouns. These include some, any, all, and no. They're very common, but still need to agree in form with the type of noun they describe. Plural countable examples. We need some chairs for the event. There are no seats left in the hall. All the books on the table are new. Uncountable examples. We need some water for the plants. There is no milk in the fridge. All the information was verified before publication. Compare. I bought some apples. Plural, countable. I bought some juice. Uncountable. Same quantifier, different noun type, and both are correct.
All right, that's all we have for today. But before you go, there's one more thing you need to know, especially if you're preparing for the 2026 TOEFL. It's determiner order. When indefinite quantifiers and definite determiners appear together, like both my hands or all these many books, you must follow a specific word order. This is especially important for the 2026 TOEFL writing section, which now includes a build a sentence task, essentially a word order question in disguise. So mastering determiner order isn't optional, it's essential if you want to score high. If you'd like a clear explanation, Dr. Burns has an excellent video lecture on determiner order that breaks down all the possible combinations using examples from real academic English. Check it out, it's a perfect follow-up to today's lesson. And if you want to further improve your English skills, visit Dr. Burns' website at
www.nanhiburns.com.
Thank you for watching, and don't hesitate to ask if you have any questions.